think he would want them to know that he was a very patriotic American, and he felt that Southern Command was a great opportunity to further American ideals and to assist our fellow Americans in Latin America in achieving our mutual goals. And at the time, that goal was to defeat communism. That was the mutual idea that I think motivated all of them at that time. And he was well received because his credentials were good. I might mention a little bit about those. He served in World War II in the corps that was commanded by, I can't say the man's name now, 7th Corps, and he was the 2nd Artillery Officer, Deputy Commander of the Corps Artillery. And it was a position that allowed him, with 7th Corps, to traverse Germany. They entered Germany in the Ardennes, which was very heavy and hard fighting, and after going across France and then liberating Germany. In the Korean War, he commanded the artillery of the 7th Division, and then he was promoted and he commanded the artillery of the 2nd Corps. And he participated in the Battle of Port Chop Hill, which is a very large battle. Went on for a long time. The Chinese were determined to take it, and they used infantry attacks at night. Massive human wave attacks were employed by the Chinese People's Liberation Army to try and overrun the American forces and capture Port Chop Hill. And as the commander of the 2nd Corps, he was able to mass the artillery fires of the entire Corps artillery on the avenues of approach and the target area that the Chinese were seeking to capture. The battles that went on for Port Chop Hill were bloody battles. And the lion's share of the killing was done at night, and it was done by artillery. And so General O'Mara had a good bit to do about that. He commanded the artillery there. Those were the 2 combat experiences that he had in his lifetime. He entered the Army when it was a horse-drawn army, and he left. It was a much different army, and the army only numbered some 200,000 men when he entered the army in the 30s as a lieutenant upon graduation from the military academy. And so he saw this great transition in the army, and it was a period of enormous change as we went from a small army of 200,000 up to an armed forces, counting all services, of some 13 million men under arms. At any rate, he saw a lot of change during his time in the service. He came into the military academy. They were producing officers for a horse-drawn army, a cavalry that was horse-mounted, field artillery that was drawn by horses, and so horsemanship was an important part of the curriculum of the academy at that time. And so he was taught horsemanship at the academy, and the riding hall was the huge academic building that sits over there close to the Hudson River that I'm sure you attended classes in. And that was the riding hall when he was a cadet, a very large facility. And writing was an important part of the curriculum all 4 years, of course, when he was a cadet. The curriculum at the academy at that time was engineering. They only offered an engineering degree, which is true when I was a cadet as well. And of course it's changed considerably since that time. I know that it was a much different society than the one we know today, or even the society I grew up in. I was born in 36, and the community he grew up in was largely spoke German, and he entered a school that was a Roman Catholic parochial school. They taught in German, and when he was in the 4th grade, it was in World War I, they received instructions that only English could be taught in the schools, and they outlawed the teaching in German, which caused the curriculum to change at that time. The community he grew up in was very salt of the earth, very patriotic, and cold. It was cold up there in Wisconsin. I only spent a couple of years up there as a boy. When he went off to World War II, the family went up to reside in Wisconsin, where he was from, so that his mother could keep an eye on his family while he was gone. His father was from an Irish family. His father was Patrick O'Meara, who was a judge for Washington County, and Patrick O'Meara was a leader in the community and very well respected. But his son Tom then was my father's father, and Tom married a woman by the name of Emma Pick, and Emma was my father's mother. She was a German Jew from the Palatinate, and the family had come over to America and settled in Wisconsin. They were a well-to-do family, and she was a brilliant woman, very, very gifted, a wonderful pianist, and she went on to college in a time when young women didn't go to college in this country. So he had a very gifted family, if you will, to educate him and encourage him in his avocation. He decided as a young man he wanted to go into the military, and I think it was largely due to the writings of the English literature of the time, especially Kipling. I think he really admired Kipling's works. And they presented a picture of the military through the eyes of the English army at that time, which had, of course, people stationed in South Africa, India, Rhodesia, whatnot, and they had a great empire at the time, and their military was an important part of that empire. So I think my father was inspired by particularly the works of Kipling, and so he went on to become a professional soldier. I remember Quarry Heights, and it was overlooked a lot of terrain that was jungle covered, and you can see part of the city, Panama City, there from where his house was, or his set of quarters. They were an interesting set of quarters that were designed by Army engineers for that kind of a climate, so that tended to be open construction that allow the breezes of the evening to go through the house, and it was a different kind of architecture that I was unfamiliar with at the time. There was a lot of trouble in Panama at the time my father was down there because communists were seeking to take control of the government. And there were riots, and eventually the riots were put down by the local military, but with help from the U.S. Military. I think our special forces lended a hand, and they were able to contain the trouble. At any rate, that's about all I can say. We had an opportunity to go out deep-sea fishing with my father. They had a yacht that belonged to the command, and it was available to take, families out to do deep-sea fishing. That was a first for me, and interesting. He also took us through the canal zone on a cruise, and again, that was very, very interesting. I became a good marksman well before I went into the academy. I hunted with him for years, long before I could carry a shotgun. I carried a game bag, and then when I graduated to the time I was legally permitted to carry a shotgun, I was a hunter by his side with a 20 gauge, and he carried a 12 gauge shotgun. We used to go skeet shooting together when we lived in Germany, in Heidelberg. He was a very hard-working man, and his responsibilities included for years maintaining his mounts, his horses. That when he returned from World War II was the first time that I became familiar with his horses, and they were stabled at the post stables at Fort Sill, and he had me join him in exercising the horses every weekend and sometimes during the week. He also went out hunting regularly during the hunting season, and we would go out bird hunting. When he was in the United States, when he would take leave, he'd go up to Wisconsin, and they would hunt he would hunt with his brothers. They were great hunters. I went to the academy, graduated in 59, and went into armor and served in cavalry regiments and tank battalions for duration of my service. The academy at the time I went in had only an engineering curriculum, and engineering wasn't my favorite subject, but I managed to endure the engineering until I could go on and study my own subjects I liked. I got 2 master's degrees and a certification as a Western European foreign area expert once I became a commissioned officer. So I went into political science and went into, at the Command and General Staff College, I took their master's program. And this gave me an opportunity to study revolutionary warfare, communist theory, and contributed to my writing over the years. My recent book is named Liberty versus Tyranny, and it's a collection of pieces that I wrote over many years, and it captures a lot of the lessons that we learned as we fought communism. It was the period of my service was what it was characteristically or characterized by conflict. First the Cold War, and then the Hot War, and then more Cold War, and then the counterterrorism fighting that we did. After I retired, I served in the Middle East for 10 years as a contractor, and we were very much involved in the counterterrorism business at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Al-Qaeda was blowing up our structures, killing our people, and so it was an interesting period.